Thank you very much, and I am very happy to speak in favour of the Sinn Féin amendment, or the Sinn Féin motion today. It highlights, as Senator Moynihan said, this is legislation that comes through again and again, and it went through the last Oireachtas multiple times, and what we find is every time the rental tenancies or any of these bills come through, there is never time to substantively discuss the issues. That's why I think debate today is really welcome. Because we see again and again it is a new emergency measure or a partial fix, or as we saw in the rental tenancies legislation that went through last autumn, unfortunately, some real steps backwards, which I am very concerned about. In terms of the numbers of evictions, the eviction protection has been very welcome. It was good that Ireland acted relatively promptly on that. It's good that it was extended. However, an opportunity was missed. We highlighted during the debate last autumn that the Minister, and in fact I put forward two amendments myself, one which would extend the protection from evictions to 20 kilometres, and another which would give the Minister the discretion to extend it and link it to another public health direction if he wished so. And that was not taken up. And that's why we do have this situation now, whereby if we move from 5 kilometres, we create jeopardy for people. And unfortunately, because of the legislation passed last year, the jeopardy is now greater than it ever was. A particular measure that I'm extremely concerned about, and I would urge the government to address this promptly before the ban on evictions is lifted, because we know how quickly action can come. I think from the previous listing of evictions briefly in autumn, we saw, I think it was 360 eviction notices served almost immediately as soon as the ban was lifted. The provisions in the legislation last year meant that if you were just 28 days in arrears, that's 1 month, less than 1 month's paycheck in arrears, you will just have 28 days to pay that back, even if you are a Part 4 tenant who may have lived for 10 or 15 years, who may have that security of long-term tenure and who may have had one of the most difficult years of your life. I am extraordinarily concerned, Minister, about the jeopardy that we are going to see because of that 28-day arrears provision to allow for evictions that came into legislation newly last year. It has not had impact because of the suspension, but it is an extraordinary jeopardy, and I urge the government to address that as a matter of priority. And also, while doing so, address the issue of the 5k and 20k. That's a small piece of legislation that could come through very promptly through these houses. I also want to highlight some of the other loopholes that have affected Part 4 tenancies in Ireland. Situations where we have a good thing that is being used as a lever for insecurity. So, for example, retrofitting, which is something we want to see happening. How can we look more carefully at some of the provisions we have around things like retrofitting to ensure that retrofitting does not mean eviction, that it doesn't mean that your substantial refurbishments have allowed for the eviction and then a hiking in rent. We need to address each of those loopholes, because behind each loophole are multiple households. And I think those are the kinds of issues, and that is why there is the urgency in the motion which has been put in the motion which has been put forward. And they're looking at concerns we've often heard. We hear about, those who wish to own homes and so forth. The problem is we have been incentivising very large investment firms. And we know when it first happened. It happened when we brought in the capital gains tax waiver, and there was an instant spike in the market. And then we were warned about it and went on for another year. The signal's been there, very clearly there. And it is a huge and horrifying concern when we not only have people trading in home units, which may or may not be occupied as speculative commodities, and there is nothing like the co-living units and the student accommodations for that, in terms of trading counters rather than offering homes. But if we also have measures which have actually rewarded that kind of practice, and we've seen that again and again, and I think there's the strategic housing development mechanism, which we were told would deliver housing. Unfortunately, it did not. Only 30% of those who got that fast-track planning permission have been built. And that is why I'm extraordinarily concerned about the Land Development Agency proposals, because again, I think we're going to see a short-circuiting of local council involvement, of the building of homes and neighbourhoods, by a land development agency, which is only required at the moment, and I hope it will be amended, to provide 40 to 50% social and affordable housing. We need to be realistic. First of all, that affordable is not categorised. What is counted as affordable is not affordable for most. But social and affordable combined, that represents more than enough of a social mix. We don't need to have the idea that 40 or 50% would be reserved for effectively a speculative market. That's not part of any logic of the kind of arguments we hear that we need to have a mix and that's why it can't be all social housing. What people want is security of tenure, right since David. That's what they want, to know they can plan their lives, enrol their children in a school, and that child can go to that school for 6 years. That's the security that we could give, and that we could give if we had local authorities being empowered and resourced to build public housing on public land and to act as public landlords with rent that would reflect the fact that people's wages go up and down over the course of a lifetime. That's the really transformative vision that's there. And I really urge you, Minister, to engage with all those in your department, perhaps embedded in some old models of thinking, and to push some new proposals forward.